Hello and welcome. Welcome to the Global Impact Virtual Conference. This is hosted by ISTE's community leaders. My name is Stephanie Howe, and I'm a teacher success champion at CAMI, and I live in Carroll, Ohio, in the United States. This session is titled Design with Accessibility in Mind, and we're going to cover how we can support all different types of learners within our classroom. So, if you're kind of wondering a little bit more about this session, we're going to again kind of explore how we can support all of our different students and all of their different needs within our classroom. We're also going to talk about how some of these strategies that will support a lot of our students in order for them to access the materials and the content that we're providing them will also kind of provide that universal design for learning to support all of your students in your class. If you need access to any other resources, make sure you go to this bit.ly and join this link. Once you join this link, you'll have access to all of the resources that are shared within this presentation. So let's go ahead and get to know a little bit more about me and my story and my why. So it all started when I was in the second grade. So in the second grade, I was diagnosed with a learning disability. And in the second grade, I again went through a lot of different testing just to figure out what it was that was causing a lot of issues when it came to reading. And so, what these tests kind of found out is that, again, I was diagnosed with a learning disability. And in the second grade, my world became kind of crazy. I started to hate school to where I would kind of avoid it. And my parents were honestly my biggest advocate, so much that they would advocate for my learning that I didn't really learn how to do it until I was in college. And so this is kind of, again, real life for me, where I sat in a lot of classrooms that were direct instruction. And it was a struggle, again, just listening to those teachers teach. And I was, again, just kind of a passive learner. And then we would have stacks and stacks of homework, and I would have to go home and try to do these different activities. But I was just struggling because, again, I would sit there in class, and it wasn't a great learning experience for me being in kind of that direct instruction environment. Which then, brought me, this is a picture of my wedding day. I'm a workaholic. So when it comes to, growing up and going through this journey of second grade, I realized that I needed to be an educator. I needed to be that teacher that students didn't have, and teaching them some executive functioning skills to really support their learning and to also support them in different areas that they are able to be advocates for their own learning. Again, my parents did it for me. And so when I was in college, it was kind of weird, like sticking up and kind of saying, like, no, I need extended time, or no, I need this accommodation. And so I really had to learn and step out of my comfort zone where I really wanted to teach my students, and I taught fifth grade, how to gain these skills and really use it to their power. And so when I started to use these different skills and really focus and teach my students, I started to see a lot of different changes. I started to become a teacher leader where other teachers were kind of like, okay, what are you doing? What are you doing in your classroom? I also found that technology was a really huge aid when it came to providing instruction to my students. It allowed that playing field to kind of become a little bit more equal because my students no longer needed me to explain concepts to them. They didn't need me right by their side to read a passage to them. With technology, my students were able to use tools like a read aloud dictionary, uh, different annotation tools to really get their ideas and demonstrate their learning in their own unique way. And so, again, I started to see how technology could play this role, which then led me into an instructional technology coordinator and coach role, where I started to be able to advocate for students and technology to not only just support my students that had different disabilities, but really every single student in that classroom. Which then brings me to the Google Innovator Academy. This is where I kind of went outside my comfort zone. I got accepted into the Australia cohort. And so I went all the way to Sydney, Australia in 2019. And this is where I realized that my world was about to blow up. I met amazing educators from New Zealand, Australia, all over the world, and I began to connect with them, ask them questions. I started to have people cheering me on and really kind of saying, oh my gosh, Stephanie, these are some great, unique ideas that you have when it comes to supporting different students. I also got to complete my Google Innovator project with the support of that community. And my project was taking basic recall, which a lot of times we give to different students with different disabilities, and moving them along to higher levels in that depth of knowledge. So rather than just recall, my students started to create. My students started to use their strengths in powerful ways, where I started to feel like a lot of my students were really struggling at that recall level. And what I noticed as an instructional technology coach and coordinator is I noticed that a lot of my teachers were not moving past that recall level with a lot of these students, because that was something that they struggled with, was that working memory. And a lot of teachers would be like, nope, they can't move on to the higher levels of DOK because they're struggling with recall. And that was really hard on me because I'm a creative person. My weakness is in that basic recall level. And so my goal, my challenge was, how am I going to move these students from that recall level to allowing them to use their strengths when it comes to creation, when it comes to demonstrating their knowledge in a lot of different ways, rather than just reciting math facts, reciting different things that they learned. And so that became kind of my mission and my goal. And again, the Google community really supported me along that way. So what I want you to do is I'm going to share a link with you. And in this link, I would love for you to collaborate and add your own ideas on here. I know this is a recorded session, so feel free to pop in and out, and you might see more responses as kind of the session gets watched. So again, you might want to come back to this link as you see these resources and as you're kind of exploring. So again, I'm going to share this link with you. And I just want you to first kind of ponder, and I want you to think about, when you're thinking about accessibility, what is it? What is accessibility and why is it important? Okay, so just a reminder that you can pause this video, and within Cami, you can come over and use the comment tools and add your ideas about what is accessibility and why is it important. You can use the text comment, voice comment. You can even videotape yourself, or if you have a resource, you can go over to that other tab to record. But again, let's go ahead and just take a moment. Feel free to pause the video and really think about, what is accessibility and why is it important? So I went ahead and added, it allows all students to have access and create a level playing field. I really do believe that accessibility is really important for our learners, because again, it allows students to have access to curriculum. Going back to my second grade story, I really needed that accessibility piece in order to help me understand some of the content. It's really important because, again, it allowed me to have a place in that classroom. When I didn't have those accessibility features, when my teacher didn't really meet my needs, I felt out of place. I did not feel like I belonged in that classroom. And it honestly led to me hating school. So again, I want you to just again think, what is it when it comes to accessibility and why is it important? And what I want you to do is I want you to now look over here, and I want you to think about the world around us. What do you use even though it wasn't designed for you? Okay, do you use any of these screens on here, or images, GIFs, but it wasn't designed for you? For example, right here is a garage door. I use it every single day. It wasn't designed for me. I'm not in a wheelchair. The garage door was actually designed for somebody in a wheelchair. So that way they were able to open up their garage and get into their car, because again, it was a huge issue for them to get out, get back in, open it up, come in. And again, it wasn't designed for me. I didn't have any physical constraints. However, I use one multiple times a day when I'm leaving, coming in, and I think sometimes we forget how this tool wasn't maybe designed for us. Another thing is this escalator. I have a 4-year-old son. He loves to ride the escalator. Again, it's not a ride, but it's not made for him either, right? He can take the stairs, and again, that tool, that resource wasn't just again designed for us, but now we're able to really use it as that universal design. There's also right here this image of the elf, right? He on an elevator. And again, when I have a stroller or when I have a cart or a heavy bag, that elevator is really convenient for me. And then right here is a ramp, right? And so we've got these ramps, we've got these tools for us. And in our world, they weren't necessarily designed for some of us because of the different physical restraints that some of us have. They might have been, right? But again, the main goal of this was not made for us. And so when we're thinking about accessibility, it really kind of comes from architect and how it was designed in the world around us. These folks, they created garage doors, they created escalators, elevators, and ramps, not only just to support those with a physical need to be able to get to one place to another, but also to support us that maybe have a heavy bag, that are maybe just needing a quicker, efficient way to get into our garage. So, because these were built for a user with a certain need, we're all able to benefit from these different accessibility features within the world around us. So, I want you to keep that in mind as we're going through today's presentation of how this idea, this resource might really support and help that student that needs that accessibility feature. But if you support that one student, it might also benefit all the other students within your classroom. So I want, again, to keep that in mind as we're exploring today's session. So we're going to go back over to this activity. And now what I want you to do is I want you to think about, how does technology address different learning styles and preferences? So again, how does it allow you to provide that technology to your learners, and it allows that different learning styles and preferences? So feel free to pause the video, add a comment. Again, you can add audio, voice, video, whatever you feel comfortable adding to this document. And again, go ahead and answer that question of how technology really plays an aid when it comes to that. And again, what I have found is that technology really allows for students to access information. They're able to not only respond by text, but I've got students now who are able to respond by providing audio, video. They can draw out their ideas. Students are able to demonstrate their learning in multiple ways when it comes to technology. Students are also able to use tools like the read aloud feature. And when they're listening to a text, they're able to hear and understand different concepts by using that read aloud, by using the dictionary to help them understand different words and meanings in their own language and in their own learning as well. So let's think about some tools that we have for our students. And right here, what I would love for you to do is just go ahead and pause the video and complete this 6-step scavenger hunt. So again, you can pause the video, maybe set a timer for about 5 minutes. And then once that timer is up, come back and let's see how you did on this scavenger hunt for accessibility. All right, welcome back. So right here, we've got our Cami for accessibility. And we have the first thing is to use this space to voice type. So students are able to come in here and go into the text box tool, and then they can just click on their screen, come up here to this little icon with the little microphone where it says voice typing, tiger, and then they can say what they want. This is all happening without students' hands. So students are able to come in, click on that text box, come over to this voice typing tool, say what they want, and then it will type it for those students. Voice typing, this can be a great way if you have students that are really struggling with getting some of their ideas out onto paper. And so if you have some students who are really struggling with getting those ideas out into typing, have them talk out their idea, have them talk out their brainstorming using that voice typing feature to really aid in their learning. Another thing is there is the dictionary and the read aloud tool. So right here is the dictionary, and all you have to do is hover over that word, and then the dictionary will appear. And then we can also listen to this definition and the word for that word to help students understand the dictionary and the meaning of that word. If you have the language in another language, it also works in Spanish and UK English. So it is there to support your learners, and it's growing every single day, that dictionary. You can also use the read aloud. So if I come in here and I come in and I'm able to highlight, I can listen to this be read aloud to me, so then I'm able to support my students even more. Another thing with the read aloud is students can come in, change their voice to whatever they need to change it to. There's also an opportunity if the text is translated into Spanish or French or any of these languages, students can also listen to it using these options. However, they do need to click it first. You can speed it up or slow it down. You can also change the pitch as well. Number 2, now we want you to write something. So again, when you have that text box and you click and you write something. So I'm going to write what I do every single morning. I get up and I walk. I can come in and I can change this font to Open Dyslexic or Lexend. And what this does is it really supports your learners with just spacing out the font a little bit more. You'll notice that Tiger right here is in Roboto, where Walk right here is in Lexend. And so again, what happens is you can just kind of see that the W and the A, there's a little bit more of a space in between. And again, when you're using accessible fonts that are really easy for your students to read and understand, that can be really helpful for them. So using like a font like this, the True Color one, it's cute, but is it accessible for all of your learners to be able to see and understand that understanding? When you're using the Open Dyslexic on that G, you can kind of see that like the little curve part is a little bit more bold than the little circle. So again, you can see right here how this can maybe support some of your learners by using that Lexend or Open Dyslexic fonts. Students are able to use highlighters to help them overlay and focus. So right here is the markup tool. And then there is a text highlighter. This will only highlight text. The Freeland will allow you to do kind of squigglies. And then there is a box highlighter. So if I come over here and I highlight this, again, sometimes it just makes it really helpful for me to focus in on this understanding, and I'm really able to understand what is being kind of said to my learners. Another thing is the comment tool. My students can respond not just by text, but also by audio. And they're able to complete and give their thoughts about their understanding by just quickly recording their voice onto the document. Now, this right here is an image. And with images, sometimes they're not OCR read aloud. So you can see here, I'm trying to highlight and it's not highlighting this document. So if I come up here to this menu bar and I click on text recognition, so hamburger, text recognition, it'll just take one moment to load. So here it is loading down at the bottom. And then after it loads, I'm able to use that dictionary tool and the read aloud on this image. And so then after it reloads, I'm able to come in and click, and there's that dictionary. Here's that read aloud. And then I'm able to listen to that story of that image that I just took a picture of using that read aloud tool. I've also seen teachers read using the voice comment because sometimes students prefer a human voice as well. There's also dark mode. I am a huge fan of light mode. However, you might be team dark mode. And so if that is the case, you're able to turn that on or off. So right here where your initials are, you can come where it says dark mode, and now everything is dark. And then there's light mode. Again, I'm team light, but you might be team dark. And if that's the case, you're able to turn that feature on to support your learners. So again, we walk through just some ways that technology can support our learning when it comes to using technology. Students are able to voice type. Students can use Lexan, open dyslexia fonts to help them really read and understand the information at hand by just providing that extra space in between your letters. The highlighter tool can also help provide students with an overlay that can help them focus while they're reading or to use it as a way. There's comment tools built in where students are able to respond by audio, video, text to really get their ideas across using a multimedia approach. Text recognition, where students are able to come in and have things be OCR so they can have it be read aloud to them and understand information at hand. And then again, there's dark mode, which can help students if they need that different contrast on the screen. So go ahead, and again, if you have not completed the scavenger hunt, check your answers, or go ahead and pause the video and go through and try it yourself. Try out these tools, add to this document. It's okay if it gets a little bit messy while you're kind of playing and learning a bit more about the different accessibility tools that technology can offer us when we're just trying to learn more about it. And now we need to change our instruction. So again, going back to my second grade story, I was that student that had a lot of direct instruction coming my way. And so when I had direct instruction coming that way, it didn't work for me. I'm not a sit and get learner. I need to get messy. I need to try, fail forward, and explore. And so we really need to change our instruction. The technology tools are fantastic. However, where we're going to see the most movement with our students with different disabilities or abilities is changing our instruction, moving them from passive sitters to actually engaging in the instruction and getting a little bit messy with what they're about to learn. So there's 3 activities that we're going to explore. These are 3 ideas that you're able to use within your own classroom, but also there's a ton of more research-based strategies, but again, we're just gonna touch on 3 during today's session. So this first one is a great way to help your students when they're watching a video. So what I like to do is I like to come in here and go to Add Media and add a YouTube video. So let's go ahead and let's say that we are learning about biology. And here's the video that I need my students to watch. Now, with this video, you might have noticed that once I added into Cami, it gets rid of the ads and it also gets rid of the distractions, which is great for a lot of my students. Because again, sometimes they're like, oh, look at this video. Let's click and see what it is. And I'm like, no, I need you to watch this video. So again, it can be really helpful. So right here, I've got this video. And what you might know about this video is that there's a lot of things happening here. Okay, there's a lot of text, there's a lot of images, there's a lot of words, right? Kind of happening within this video. So what happens with sound on and sound off is students watch this video. The first time they watch it with the sound off. So right here, students will just mute this video and then they come in here and they take notes. Students can pause the video and write down or say or even videotape what they're noticing about the video. Again, the sound is off the first time. So again, the video is playing and students are able to come in and add either text comments, audio comments, video comments. They can draw, they could use text, whatever they need to do to write out their notes of what they just see. There's no sound in the video. They're just watching this video. Then they're going to watch the video a second time. This time when they watch the video, the sound is on. So now they've already seen all the graphics. They've already seen all of the images coming at play. Now the sound is on and they're taking notes again. Some teachers during this strategy will do a think, pair, share. So the first time when it's no sound on, teachers will pause their students and have them kind of compare and contrast their notes and go, oh my gosh, I noticed this. Did you notice that? I noticed this, blah, 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 blah. And the students go back and forth about what they noticed and what they maybe wondered about what that student saw within their own notes. Then again, they watch the same video, but this time the sound is on. With the sound on, the teacher is then going through and explaining to the students kind of, okay, now we're going to take notes. What did you notice with the sound on? What did you hear? What did you see again? And so again, the students watch the video twice and then they take notes. And then what they're able to do is they can think first and then they can share their Kami document with a friend. And then they can compare their notes back and forth to see what did you notice here? What did you mean when you wrote that down? And again, students are able to really come in on this document and aid each other's learning. So they're not just sitting there passively watching a video. Students are taking notes and they're really getting engaged. And you also have to teach your students how to pause the video, how to play the video. There's also ways for students to generate captions in a video. So then they're able to follow along with the closed captions, with the video, pausing it. You can even have your students learn how to slow it down or pause it or rewind to really support their own learning journey in this video. So again, I can come back, change the playback speed, change the subtitles if I need to. And then students are able to come in and rewatch this video. So I like to teach my students, how do I even watch a video? How do I take notes? This is a skill that our students really need to learn rather than just sitting here passively watching a video. So again, they watch it twice. First time with the sound off. They're writing down notes, what they notice, what they wonder. Then they will share with a partner. And then they watch it a second time, this time with the sound on. Students are writing notes again, and they're documenting what they see as well. Students do that think, pair, share, where they also share with a partner to share what they just watched in this video. You can then have a class discussion after your students kind of think with a partner of what did they notice? What did their partner? What did they have the same, different? And then you can talk through the video to really support your students' learning. This is also a great strategy for students who are English learners, and because sometimes when they're watching a video, it's too much. It's too much for your students to see and also hear and follow along with what's happening. So if you have them watch it once with the sound off, they're able to see all the graphics. The second time when they turn on that audio, then they're able to really start to take in what the person is saying, and even if they turn on those closed captions as well. Okay. So again, that was sound on and sound off. This next one right here is a roadmap. Roadmaps are a great way to differentiate and support your own students and their learning. And so what we're going to do is we're going to just explore a roadmap and how I would assign this to my students. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to first open up this link. And you can see that I've already created this like roadmap right here. And what I can do is then I can add in different activities into this roadmap. So I like to start off with today's goal. So with all these different activities, this takes a lot of bulk planning. You will create these roadmaps at the start where your students will just kind of begin to learn a little bit more about a topic. So again, with this topic, students might first watch a video. And so one of the activities that I might do within this is that sound off, sound on. So I'm just going to come over, and typically what I do when I'm planning out these roadmaps is I'm just going to come in, and the first activity is trouble in Jamestown, we'll say, and they have to watch a video. So right here, I've got my activity where they're going to take notes about that video. And again, they're going to do that sound off, sound on activity. I like to come in and I like to hyperlink. So slide number 3. And then I will assign this to slide number 3. Students will then maybe watch this video again, right? And so I can come in and I'm able to explain what my students are going to be doing within this activity. So I'm going to do trouble in Jamestown, and I'm going to do sound off. And then I'm going to do trouble in Jamestown. And this time I'm going to do sound on. Okay. I'm going to, again, link this to slide. I'm going to link it to slide number 3. And what's nice is when you create within your slide deck is when it goes over to Kami, it will remember that. I'm also going to put the video down here so I don't forget it. I'm going to add that on later though. Okay, so I've got that 2 parts right there where I really want my students to work on this. And then after they do this activity, I want them to pause and get a teacher check. So I want to check their understanding for how they did on this activity. Then what happens is my students will complete this 18 British colonies, and then they're just going to continue working on these different activities. So what I would do is I would just take this resource, add it within this slide deck, and it would just be kind of a longer slide deck. And as my students are kind of working through these different activities, it's all self-paced. So let me go ahead and I'm going to add a Frere model into here. So that way my students are able to take this activity and then they'll complete different vocabulary words to support their learning as well. So here is my Frere model, and I might make them do like 3 of them. They'll start at slide 4. And again, I'm just coming in and I'm able to add in different passages, different activities that I really want my students to be able to complete for this learning roadmap. And so then by the time that my students have this roadmap right here, and then let's say, for example, that I want them to also have this Google document folder or activity right here. So let me go ahead and just, wrong thing. I want to show you what some magic can happen before I assign this to my learners. All right, let's see if I need to share this. Okay, so we got this PDF right here. We have all of these different, again, activities that I'm able to come in, build out for my different learners. I'm going to just kind of stop right here because I want to show you something that I'm able to do with this activity. Okay, so I've got my today's goal. Today's goal is going to, I'm just going to leave that empty, and I'm going to show you why I'm going to leave that empty for right now. Okay, so I've got my lesson plan all marked out on this roadmap. And what I'm able to do now is I'm able to go over and click on the Kami extension. Right here is the Kami extension. You can search for the Kami extension by just typing in Kami extension, and right here where it says Kami in Google, add to Chrome. You're going to add this to your Chrome, and then what you're able to do is right here I can click on this Kami extension. And I'm going to use split and merge. So what I'm able to do is I'm able to take my Google document. So I'm just going to sign into my Google Drive. Here is that slideshow I've been working on, and here is that PDF. I need both of those documents. Now, they're not together, but with split and merge, I'm able to add them together so my students don't need to go to 2 different pages. So I've got my 2 documents, and now what I'm going to do is my students needed this article before they started the Frere model. Okay, so again, I'm able to quickly add these resources into this area. So my students will have that reading and all of these graphics of this map. Okay, and again, I can decide where I want these to go. What I love about this is I can also duplicate this, and maybe for some of my learners, they need a different roadmap. I can come in, provide them a different roadmap, and I might call this my low group, my middle group, and then I can duplicate again for my high group. And maybe with my low group, they don't need to do 3 for your models. They only need to do 1. My middle group doesn't need to do the last 2 pages of this. I can decide what I want to do and differentiate for my students just quickly by using split and merge. So again, that was on that Kami extension. Once you click split and merge, and then you're able to mix and match those resources to decide the order and the activities or scaffolds that you need to provide for your students. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and export this middle one to Kami. So as it's exporting, I'm going to go ahead and open this within Kami. And now what I'm able to do is I'm able to come on here and add additional scaffolds and resources to support my learners. I can use the drawing tool and I can write out what page number I want them to get to. I can come in and add a clarification video to explain to them what they're doing for the day. I can show them, hey, our goal today is this number right here. I can explain using audio what they're going to do on this activity right here. I also needed to add a video onto this document as well. And so then I'm able to grab that YouTube link, come into Add Media, insert that video right onto this document, and then add it right there. I can come in and read this passage or allow my students to use the computer read aloud. I can also add any additional scaffolds, graphic organizers that I need to support my students. Once I have this all set, I'm able to download this and save with the annotations to my Google Drive. Or if you're a Google Classroom user, all you have to do is click on this menu bar and hit Create Assignment. Once I go in, I'm able to create a title for this. So let's go ahead and do Colonization Roadmap. I want to make a copy for every single learner. And then there's also feature controls where I can turn on and off features for my students so they don't have access to everything. And now what I'm going to do is I am going to pick my class. Once I pick that class, I'm going to then assign it. It is going to process that resource and assign it to my learners. And then what I'm able to do is my students can go onto their computer and they're going to go over to their Google Classroom. And once they're in their Google Classroom, they're going to click on classwork. There's that roadmap. Open with Kami. And they're going to begin working on this assignment. This assignment is self-paced, so that allows me as a teacher to be able to meet with my students one-on-one. They see that their goal for today is number 3. They also see that we're going to have a mini lesson. There's that clarification video. My students will come in, go to Add Media, take a picture, and use their little image as a tracker along this game board. They're able to come in and add notes by drawing, typing, or even saying their ideas of what they watched in that video. So again, students have multiple different resources on here to be able to help them and support their learning. They can come to that markup tool and highlight all of these different texts and key things that they learned within learning about this civilization. What happens then is on the teacher's screen, so right here is the teacher's screen, and I'm able to go to my Google Classroom. And when I'm in my Google Classroom, I used to be able to see each of my students individually. So I'm going to hit View Instructions. And typically I would have to view their work one by one. However, so here it is one by one. However, when I click on this button right here, Class View, I can actually see all of my learners at the exact same time. So I can see where student Stephanie is compared to student Roseanne. I can see when I need to pull a small group for teacher checks. I can see which student needs what help by quickly monitoring class view in order to support my students. I can also use class view to provide feedback to my students. So here's a star. My students are going to receive that feedback automatically on their screen. I can also come in and I'm able to add a text box or video, or even come in and add a sticker onto their work to let them know that they're doing a great job. I can maybe do a sticker to say, okay, right here, I see that you have a teacher check and you met it. So keep on moving through the roadmap. I can also come in and I could provide scaffolds or resources for my students. Maybe I want this student, Roseanne, to have a scaffold in order for her to compare and contrast the resources available on this activity. Just that student, just that activity is getting that scaffold. So again, just that student on that slide is getting that resource. Another student might need some chunking. So I can come into the shape tool, fill the shape, and then I can hide the box that I don't want them to do until they get that teacher check. So once they get that teacher check, I can then remove this scaffold, move this chunking activity, and then they're able to get that feedback from me. Another thing that I can do is click on toggle sidebar. And if I go over here to this little bank, I can start to save scaffolds, resources, activities for my students. And all I have to do is create a folder. If there's a resource I want to save or a feedback or an anchor chart or something, I just click this little box. You can save images, audio files, videos, all in your annotation bank. Once you save them to your bank, you're able to reuse them by just quickly dragging and dropping onto the student that's going to need that resource. If I'm absent, maybe a student's absent, I can come in and create a video, drop that absent video onto their assignment, and then they're able to catch up really quickly. I can also come in and grab stickers or memes onto my students' documents to let them know that feedback quickly in my classroom. And I'm able to quickly give that feedback, scaffolds, or support or extensions to my students. So again, that was the annotation bank where you're able to support your students by giving them personalized feedback to really fit their needs as a learner. Another thing is, let's say we're coming back. Right here, I can click on update work. Yesterday's goal was number 3. Okay, I can delete this and I can come in and I can write goal 4, right? Or whatever the goal is for the day. Maybe we're done with this video. I can delete it and I can make a new text box that I need to with new directions or new scaffolds to support them on today's learning. I hit publish changes, publish, and guess what up? Every student changes that 3 to a 4, where I'm able to add video, audio. If I have a digital notebook, I'm able to support that student with update work. Okay, so again, there's multiple different ways that you can assign this within your learning management system. It works with Google Classroom, Schoology, Canvas, Microsoft Teams. So if you're interested in learning more, feel free to sign up for a time to learn more of how you can use ClassView with your learning management system and update work. All right, so then the last design trick or hack that we have is a digital notebook. So right here, a digital notebook can be a great way to support your learners. And so what I used to do is when it came to my students' different IEP needs is I would create a binder. And so again, I used Google Slides to create this binder. And then what I would do is I would send this off into the learning management system and I would assign this as a CAMI assignment. So here's my Google Classroom. I go into classwork, create a CAMI assignment, and then I would go to my Google Drive and add this data notebook into this my Google Classroom. I would name it. I would then decide if I wanted feature controls and assign it. Once it was assigned to my learners, my students were able to come into their data notebook as they needed it. And they were able to then provide their scores, updates, reflections, all on this data notebook. And what I was able to do is I was able to take this data notebook to parent-teacher conferences and IEP meetings. So students come into their Google Classroom, click Open with CAMI, and then they're able to come to their data notebook, and they are able to come in and highlight their scores from the fall, highlight their scores from the winter, highlight their scores from spring, and begin to see their progress on how they are achieving their scores throughout this data notebook. And what's great is in CAMI, I'm able to come in as the teacher, and I am able to come back to that IEP data notebook, view instructions, and I can do that class view where I can see every single student's screen and provide resources, additional data to support me in those IEP meetings or parent meetings. I can also see their progress and give them little check marks to let them know, like, okay, you're doing a great job. Nice job. Great work. And again, I can add Google image search images. I could add my own memes. I can come in and add stickers. Whatever you need to be able to do, you're able to come on here and your students will see those annotations immediately on their document. Another thing is with data notebooks, I can use update work. So here's update work. I can come in. Let's say they're not ready for spring or winter or spring. I can come in, grab a shape tool, the rectangle, fill this shape, hide these boxes right here. And then they also don't need winter. We're not there yet. I can hide these boxes. Again, I probably would not make it pink, but for today we're making it pink. And I can hide anything that we don't need just yet in this data notebook. Hit publish, changes, publish. It's going to hide those with using those boxes. And then as we're ready, I can slowly move these boxes down to where my students need to complete the next part of their data notebook. So again, I'm able to come in and scaffold this resource. So I have the whole year ready to go, but I don't need my students to have it. So I can either add it using update work as we get going, or I can come in and hide these little boxes and move things around, and then I can individually remove it. Or again, you can go to update work and you're able to remove it for all of your students and then publish those changes. So quick recap, class view is for individualized feedback, individualized scaffolds, individualized support, extensions. Update work is where everybody's going to get that scaffold. Everybody is going to get that video. Everybody's going to get that resource. And then don't forget to hit publish changes when you use your update work. Okay. If you have other ideas when it comes to using instructional ideas to improve your students' learning, please share. Please share, and so we can have ideas of more instructional ideas that we're able to use to support our learners. So again, it's great having the technology tools such as read aloud and voice typing, but a lot of this change needs to happen within the instructional model. So just remember that when you're thinking about how can I improve my students' learning, direct instruction might not be the answer. How can we get our students learning, taking ownership of their learning by using some of the tools that we just talked about? Again, we just talked about 3, but then we're able to also explore even more resources and ideas within our classroom. If you want more or you need support, reach out. Reach out to me. I would love to support you on this journey of kind of creating that self-paced model or even supporting different learners in your classroom. So again, you can reach out to me on social media. There's also a Google group with a ton of educators that are always willing to support and suggest ideas. So if you need help, reach out. We are more than happy to support you. And again, thank you so much for joining the Global Impact virtual conference hosted by ISTE Community Leaders. Make sure that you watch other sessions, including those that are pre-recorded, but also offered live. And make sure that you join in on the conversation. This is happening over on social media, and you can use the hashtag ISTE Global and hashtag ISTE Community. And I cannot wait to see all of the great things that you learn along the way and how you can kind of reach out to other global leaders within the educational field to really grow on your knowledge. So again, make sure you check out the other sessions, but also reach out to other educators within the community to learn even more.